Hey guys, Ty here from Westfall Realm. Just giving a quick rundown for some notes on items in Wrath for Lich King. So let's go. So one of the things we want to talk about is gold. Gold is very important in Wrath, more so going into it than almost any other expansion. Um, sure, there were professions. In certain classes, gold was much more important. Let's say if you're Ret Paladin, getting enough gold to get blacksmithing the max was important, so you could get in your two-handed best weapon, right? Or a warrior or something like that. But there weren't too many gold sinks just built into the expansion. Wrath has a lot of gold to be made. It's easier than ever, and there's a lot of it, but there's a lot of gold sinks. So dual talent spec, which everyone's going to want, even your DPS that seems like, well, I'm only going to be, let's say, in Fire Mage. Well, there might be a selection of talents as a Fire Mage that are better for AoE and that are better for, let's say, single target. And so the ability to swap on the fly is very useful. So a lot of people are going to want to get that. 1,000 gold per character to get cold weather flying. So that's basically the ability to fly in Northrend. You just learn it. There's no quest or anything like that. You can also get a free flying mount, but I'll go into that later in a different video probably. And you're going to need 6,800 gold at Exalted for your Prebis ring. Almost every single class uses the same Prebis ring. It's basically a Dalaran ring. It's also a secondary Hearthstone. So shamans, let's say, can have 3 Hearthstones essentially. They have Astral Recall, Hearthstone, and then this ring. Everyone else is going to get the ability to teleport to here. And each upgrade, by the way, so this ring is modular. So throughout the expansion, it will basically adapt. So just so you know, this is definitely something you want to buy, and it's missed pretty much throughout the entire expansion. So for those of us who have never played Modern WoW or Wrath of the Lich King, they introduced a concept that has been in the game for a while, but just never shown to the player, called item level. So you can find quote-unquote item levels on older pieces from, let's say, like Molten Core and stuff. They'd be item level, let's say, like 50. Um, item level is a quick and dirty assessment of an item. So for the example here, I have the Hero Scourge Born helmet. So this is the headpiece. It is part of the tier set for Death Knights. It comes out of Naxxramas, which is the first instance. And but in general, better item level is better. As you can kind of see here, 74 strength to 85 strength, 90 stamina, 100 stamina, and so on and so forth. And this doesn't seem like a massive upgrade, but you have to understand over your entire gear pieces, this is a 25-man piece of loot. This is a 10-man. This person will still be very powerful, but this person will be overall stronger. It might be basically the difference between, as if this person, if you were like have them stack up, this person, if they had the whole 213 item level, is almost like wearing a separate piece of gear that this person just doesn't have access to. Couple things I want to stress though: item level is not the end all be all. Blizzard kind of willy nilly assigns some of these item levels, and oftentimes they're wrong. So something you want to know is certain blues are better than purples if the items on them. Sure, the stats on them are more, but if they're in the wrong place, right? So the how an item is itemized is also important. So just keep that in mind. A couple of things. There are 2 forms of badge gear, and there'll be, I believe, 2 more, if not 3 more after this. I'll have to look into it. But for phase 1 of Wrath, there are 2 forms. The first one is Emblem of Heroism. It's tier 7, and chests you can buy for Emblems of Heroism. They give about 200 eye level gear. They come from basically all level 80 heroic mode dungeon bosses. All bosses in 10 and 25 man raids except Iceground Citadel, and all bosses from Torvald, the Ice Watcher. Basically all bosses except Torvald. So basically all world bosses. So there are some bosses that are like Onyxia style, and they'll drop this badge. These are like your Gruuls, your Mags, your Onyxias, So you also get 5 times them for completing a weekly raid quest. So that's a quest in the actual raid itself, I believe. So that's pretty cool. So this is actually really nice because these badges is possible, even though you need a ton of them. I think you need like 70 and 80 respectively. So 150 badges, you can get 2 pieces of tier and get your 2 2-piece tier set. So going already before you walk into raid. So that's a huge advantage if you really want to grind it out. Heroic grinding is 100% worth it in this expansion because of that reason, and that continues in the next expansion. The next part is you can also get Emblem of Valor. So Emblems of Valor are basically considered 7.5. That's the 25-man loot. The 0.5 loot is the 25-man version of each raid. So each raid has a 10-man version and a 25-man version. The 25-man versions give the 0.5. They're just slightly better, just like the dungeon set 0.5 was, or tier 2.5. So you kind of understand. There's not really a huge qualification in BC, but if you play Classic, you'll understand. So the only way you get these, unfortunately, is by killing bosses in 25-man dungeons and completing the daily heroic quest. So basically, you get 2 every day. You can also buy the tier 7.5 legs and shoulders. So you could, after a long time, even if you never did 25 mans, get 2 piece of that tier as well. So possible. Heirlooms are going to help you level your alts. That's really what they're only there for. You can't get them until you get badges of the different badges. And once you buy them, you can basically, they give you an experience. So some of them give you experience points, some of them are just weapons that scale. So like for instance, the weapons, I don't believe you give any experience whatsoever. However, the gear does, most of the gear, not all of it. So, but the cool thing about the weapons is they scale up, so you never have to like be scrounging around for a new weapon. If let's say you hate weapons, whatever, or like let's say you get the pants or whatever, all the gear will scale as you level and give you extra experience. There are 4 types: cloth, leather, mail, plate. I recommend if you're going to get a physical DPS class, you buy the leather pieces. It's as simple as the leather pieces are going to, especially if you buy the ones with agility on them, are going to be okay for even your plate wearers, and they're going to be awesome for your hunters and your rogues and druids. That's if you're leveling as a feral, which you probably should be. That being said, as you acquire more and more of these pieces, it'll make it easier and easier for you to level your alts. So it's a very alt. This is one of the most alt-friendly expansions there is. So that's nice to know. So let's talk about the elephant in the room when it comes to items. Dark Mood card greatness. This is as the slide says, your craftable DST. Estimates range, but most realms is going to go anywhere from 50k to 100k gold. It's basically assembled through basically inscriptors making random cards, putting all of those cards together into a deck, and then selling the deck. And then I believe you get to choose which one of these you get when you turn it into the Dark Moon Fair. Nearly every single basically class wants this physical DPS class and the Holy Paladin. So look at most BIS lists that are coming out. This is on it. You're gonna want to get this. It's kind of a pain in the ass. It's probably worth it if your guild can possibly have an inscriptor and you just feed. We should, as a guild, feed them stuff, like feed them the ink needed to make these. It's best to do it in like batches of 50, but nonetheless. These are the rings I spoke of earlier. They're roughly 6,800 and they cost about basically 1,000 gold per, and they are excellent. They also give the ability to teleport to Dalaran. So basically, most of these are going to be great. Something I've kind of mentioned in a previous video, but you'll see none of these are healing rings, quote unquote. That's because healing items are just spell power. It's all just spell power. Something you'll see though, most healing focused items will have more stats on them. They'll have spirit on them usually, and they'll have MP5 as well. That's generally the indication it's a healing item. That doesn't mean that if it's say you're an arcane mage and you really wanted more mana, you couldn't use this item. So play around, do your own sims. That's one of the things I want to talk about a lot. Is you're going to want to, in this expansion especially, test stuff, because a lot of the stuff I've said in other videos is just wrong. Private servers are just coded differently, and so the official Blizzard servers are going to act differently. So you can't trust them as like, okay, this is the gospel, even though they've been out for literally decades. Some of them have been out for like 15 years. You can't trust that's the only thing. That's the good thing. So yeah, you're gonna want to save up and do these get rep for Dalaran. The way you're gonna do that, luckily, is through tabards. So this is going backwards. Tabards essentially are after you get friendly, you can equip the tabard, and then every dungeon you run will level 80 in level 80 dungeons, basically. So like if you're just like in BC, you stop getting rep at honored at a certain point. This is a similar thing. Once you get friendlied, you can do the high level dungeons, and you can literally just wear your Dalaran tabard and get the Kirin Tor rep over and over and over again. Quest also helps, so you can do dailies for them and things like that. But the tabard is really the coolest, item. What this really lets you do is go, hey, your friend wants to go to one dungeon, but you need rep for this other faction. It's no longer a problem, right? You don't just get rep for, let's say, the Scarlet Crusade, the Argent Crusade from one dungeon, or the Dala Run, right? You instead of having to run the specific dungeons over and over again, you can just do a world tour of heroic dungeons or whatever and still get all the rep for doing that world tour. And so it encourages you to mix it up, and you're less likely to get burned out, because if you're like, I really want to, let's say you run something for 50 times because you really need an item. Well, if you never want to go to that dungeon again, you don't have to, because your rep is no longer tied to it. So that's cool. Second thing I want to talk about is almost all crafted gear at this point. Now, it changes later in the expansion, and there are some specific things that each profession can do, but most of the BOE epics, item level 200 epics, are BOE. So, like, a Titan Steel Destroyer is your new crafted kind of like mace weapon. Um, and so it's really good, but if you receive this item in BC, this would be BOP. This would be required. It would require Hammersmith, right? You'd have to sacrifice a lot, your two profession, basically your profession slot to do so. As you can see, this is BOE. BOE is here, so basically a lot of it is pre-laid braid bits, can just be bought off the auction house. So if you have a lot of gold, that's cool. If you have guild crafting, will actually be important again, not just potions, because suddenly everyone's going to need the best in slot helm, the best in slot arm. So you're gonna have like at least one person to give most of the crafting recipes to, so they can get them the BOE items. And the guild can also, farm out mats. And again, if they want to sell the item for the guild bank, that's too as well. So it's nice. And that's kind of the end of it. Not really much more to say. One thing I miss is that each badge level can be traded down. So the badges of heroism can't be traded into anything, but the badges of valor can be traded into heroism, and so on and so forth. And as when more badges come out, you will be able to kind of rate them down. But anyway, that's the short video I wanted to make for you guys. Leave me comments if you have any questions, or hit me up in the Discord. Thank you. Bye.